Now to a story that could be straight out of Hollywood. A former mobster living right here in Indianapolis, placed by the FBI under a different identity. That is until he had to make a tough choice, a sure choice. Continue to hide or be honest about who he was. Tonight, the first of 5 stunning stories. A life of crime, addiction, and forgiveness. About 800 miles from the streets of New York, and tucked away in this green duplex just north of downtown Indy.
If you really think about it, we were predators.
A former mobster.
I didn't become an informant to get out of jail.
Living an honest life. So what do you want me to call you?
Well, you can call me Matt or John.
John, as in John Franzese, after his father, notorious mob boss, John Sonny Franzese.
My family will never call me Matt. To them, I'm all John. I'm always John. And this is our chore board.
His friends here in Indianapolis know him as Matt Pazzarelli, the name he chose when entering the FBI's witness protection program back in 2006.
Oh, sure, there's a lot of people that might want to kill me, that hate me, that'll never understand it. I think I have a few family members that I understand their feelings.
The decision to cooperate with the FBI came after living a life of crime.
We preyed on anyone and anything we thought we wanted and used any type of means to take from what others worked for and make it ours.
A life that drove him to addiction and a desperate desire to stay clean that made him do the unthinkable, wear a wire, and testify against his own father.
I was like, I either got to stand on one side of the fence or the other. And I thought a lot about what people would think, and I thought a lot about what I would think, and in the decision, I made the decision. I love my dad. I love him as a man. I think he made the wrong choice. I chose to do whatever I could to stop that choice.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, just scratching the surface. Tomorrow night, we take a closer look at John's decision to turn on his father and work with the FBI and how that led him right here to Indianapolis. Meanwhile, later in the week, we speak with Wish TV Colts insider Zach Kiefer, who worked in the original print story on John, and we spend time with John as he helps others on the road to recovery. Again, one of 5 stories that will be airing all week long right here on Wish TV.
Last night, we introduced you to John Franzese. He's a former New York City mobster who landed here in Indianapolis via the Witness Protection Program in 2006.
And tonight we take a closer look at why John decided to do what he was told you never do his whole life: cooperate with the FBI and become what the mafia calls a rat.
I didn't become an informant to get out of jail.
For John Franzese, cooperating with the FBI was the toughest decision he's ever had to make. But he knew it was his only way out of the life he was born into, a life that drove him to addiction.
It became clear. I have the ability to do something about this for the future.
So in early 2005, John agreed to wear a wire and record hundreds of hours of conversations that he had with other members of the mob, including his father, notorious mob boss, Sonny Franzese.
A very well-known, super respected member of organized crime, a captain in the Colombo family. And they said my dad killed somewhere between 30 and 60 guys, or had killed. I gotta tell you, the way some of these guys respected my dad, I gotta say, all right, 60's overdoing it, maybe 52.
John would go on to do the unthinkable, testify against his own father.
I looked at my dad and I did feel like, I felt very sad for him for that moment of what it might feel like for him, seeing me on the stand.
In the end, Sonny Franzese, then 93 years old, was sentenced to 8 years in prison for extortion. As for John, he entered into witness protection and landed here in Indianapolis.
I was like, holy cow, this city's so clean. I loved the circle. I had no idea. I came here so alone, you know, and in Indianapolis, the people here helped me grow up in a different way.
And tomorrow night, we dive into why John decided to leave the witness protection program and be open about who he is and the friends that he's made here and the life that he's developed. Again, that's part 2 of 5, and it only gets more juicy.
I got chills when he said, you know, when my dad saw me on the stand for the first time.
Yeah, and that gets, we dive more into that as the stories go on.
Wow.
So,
do you think he regrets his decision, or?
No, I don't think he does. No, he thinks about it quite often, but I think it was something he felt he needed to do.
On Monday and Tuesday, we introduced you to John Franzese. He's a former mobster who testified against his own father and now lives right here in Indianapolis.
And tonight, why Franzese decided to leave the witness protection program and go public about who he is. After testifying against his mob boss father, John Franzese entered into the witness protection program and was placed here in Indianapolis.
In Indianapolis, the people here helped me grow up in a different way that I don't think I ever would have.
He made friends and developed a routine. Then in 2017, someone at a recovery meeting recognized him and posted about it on social media. Not too long after, the FBI wanted to move him.
Take nothing, not even my cat. I was not leaving anything I loved behind. I already left my family, left my friend, left my life. I'm not doing that anymore. This cat and I and my friends here mean too much for me. I've been there, done that.
John would leave witness protection and started to be more open about his real identity.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not saying you don't get those thoughts, and sometimes I get squeamish, but they go, and most 99% of my life is, I don't think about that.
Eventually, his story made it to a local sports reporter.
It was the hardest thing I've ever done professionally because, you know, I'm used to being in the Colts locker room and talking to players, and I know that world very well. This is a world I didn't know well.
Wish TV Colts insider Zach Kiefer was writing for the Indy Star when he was assigned John's story. The two would meet every day for the next several months.
I mean, this was stuff straight out of the movies. It really was. There were times when I had to ask him, are you sure you want this story written? Am I putting you in danger? Am I putting myself in danger? We don't know who's going to read this and who's going to find out where you are and what their response is going to be.
And how long they're sober.
John was ready. He wanted his story to be out there. And it was during this time that John's father, notorious mob boss Sonny Franzese, was released from prison. And John decided to go back to New York to see him, to look his father in the eyes, the man who he helped put back behind bars.
It was getting very real. What am I going to tell this man?
And tomorrow night, how that meeting went and John's father's reaction to seeing him for the first time since John helped put him away. And a reminder, if you would like to watch the first 2 installments of this series, head on over to wishtv.com.
That is a conversation I can't even imagine to even think to start to have.
Yeah, and tomorrow's installment is my favorite of the 5.
Wow.
So it gets really, really good.
We continue our week-long series on former mobster John Franzese, and we pick up tonight where we left off last night.
And if you didn't see last night's installment, here's an update. Sonny Franzese let out of prison, and the person whose testimony put him there, his son, John, decides to go back to New York to see him for the first time since testifying against him nearly a decade earlier. By 2019, Sonny Franzese was out of prison and living in a nursing home. At 102 years old, his health was declining. John leaned on his friends here in Indianapolis to decide what to do.
I owed it to him. I owed it to myself, too, they felt.
So John decided to drive back to New York. It would be the first time he saw his father since testifying against him.
It wasn't like I was scared that something was going to happen to me. I knew that might have been the case, but if you shoot in, like I know, look, I lived with people killers looking to kill me before. I know how to navigate.
Meanwhile, back in Indianapolis, reporter Zach Kiefer was in the middle of writing his story about John.
And I'm getting text message updates from him on the way to New York, and I'm worried, and I'm scared, to be honest, because nobody knew how this was going to go. Sonny Franzese was a scary figure.
Some 12 hours later, John arrived in New York and walked into his father's room.
And I said, Dad, it's John. And he made some expressions, and he goes, John. And he said the coolest thing, did you sign in? And I said, yeah, but I didn't use my name. He said, that's good. He said, these people, they're going to come and kill you. He says, if they come and kill you, I'm stuck in here. I got to go kill them, but how can I get out of here? They can kill me. And I mean, he went on a tirade.
The two spent the next couple of hours talking. Sonny, not all there at times, but lucid enough to ask about John's recovery.
I said, Dad, I haven't had a drink in 17, or I don't remember at the time what year it was. And he goes, you know, imagine if you would have listened to me back then. It's just when I told you to stop.
But most importantly, Sonny did the one thing that John hoped he would do. The one thing John needed him to do. Sonny forgave him.
Not only was it so good that I got to see him, my favorite part of it is that the rest of the world knows that it was my dad that forgave me. Sonny Franzese was there in that visit, but ultimately it was my dad when I was a little kid who loved his son more than anything.
How about that, huh? Sonny and John would talk on the phone every month until Sonny passed away in February of 2020. And join us tomorrow for the final part of our 5-part series. And if you would like to watch the other installments, you can find those on wishtv.com. All right, if you've been watching our newscast this week, by now you know John Franzese. He's the former New York City mobster who moved to Indianapolis via the Witness Protection Program after testifying against his own father. Last night, John told us about how his father forgave him and how it changed his life. Tonight, we want to show you what life is like for John now and how he's helping others.
It's now been several years since John Franzese left witness protection, 2 years since his father forgave him, and what seems like a lifetime ago since his days in the mafia.
I am the manager, director, whatever you want to call it. I'm also 19 years sober.
John now runs the Prana House, a sober living home just north of downtown Indianapolis, where he helps other men get clean.
We have no tolerance for drugs or alcohol. I mean, like immediate leaving.
Indianapolis has become home. He has a routine, and he has friends.
He's a guy that, pulls a guy out from behind Panera dumpster and gives them someplace to stay and tries to help them and talks to people about HIV and AIDS and goes to high schools and, tells them to stay out of trouble. And that's the guy I know.
Reporter Zach Kiefer finished his article. It went on to gain national attention. John and Zach still stay in touch today.
I think the attention was a lot at first, and I think it took him by surprise. Because remember, this is a guy that was hiding. He was trying to be invisible for 10 years. He was in witness protection for 10 years. And then all of a sudden, he's a pseudo-celebrity in Indianapolis, and people are coming up to him and asking him. And some people are scared of him, to be honest. I mean, with that past, with that family, with that history, it was a lot to handle. I think he's come to peace with that. And the biggest thing about him is he's very content with who he is, and he's very content with what he decided to do, which was tell a story.
But for the men who spend time at Prana House,
Been here about a month.
And you've been clean for how long?
About 40 days.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
it's John's story of addiction and recovery that resonates most.
We're a little north of India.
Chaston Starling didn't even know about John's mafia past.
One of the things he told me when I first got here, I was I was going to go outside of the guidelines for your first 3 weeks. I was going to go pick somebody up. And he said, it's my job to save your life. It's life and death out there. And that's what you're paying me for. So if you want to live in this house, you're going to allow me to save your life. And I took that to heart, and I got a lot of respect for the man.
Respect earned, no longer feared.
In a lot of ways, he's this huge contradiction. He's got this dark past, and he's one of the sunnier, friendlier people I've ever gotten to know.
Indianapolis is a long way from the streets of New York, a long way from John's past. But John has found his calling, helping others beat their demons.
I watch guys who can't call their parents when they first walk in here to their parents picking them up for lunch. You know, it doesn't just heal the guy. I mean, family members, wives, husbands, children, they get to find a peace too, knowing that somebody came back that was, you know, that lost their life. I didn't know who they were.
purpose is a good thing. John tells me that the lesson that he hopes people take away from his story is that, and I quote, inside each one of us is a spark of something good, that we can ask for help, and if we truly want, we can find a life full of happiness and kindness. I was texting with him earlier on, Ashley. He's loved the stories. I want to thank him for allowing us to do the story on him. Also, Zach Kiefer and my photographer, Alex Hadley, who did a fantastic job on this.